Holly, honey, our hearts are out to you. Baby, if you can hear me, you know how much we love you. I feel you inside of me, and I'm trying to find you. I'm doing everything. Everybody's working very hard. And whoever has her, I beg you with all my heart, that you keep her and bring her home to her mother and father. You keep her safe, I beg you. She hasn't ever hurted anyone in her life. She's a happy girl. I beg you not to hurt her.
Disclaimer. In this story, we will be discussing the murder of a 10-year-old girl. This chapter may be triggering for some listeners. This will be the only warning. Please do not listen if you are sensitive to this topic. We're back. It's October 1st.
It's October 1st, yeah.
Wake up.
Season.
It's the first of the month. You don't know that?
No.
TikTok.
Oh. So I guess we should probably just get into it then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Holly Jones was born on September 14th, 1992. She's the youngest of a family of 4 children to parents Maria and George. Holly went to St. Luigi Catholic School, and she was very social with lots of friends and lots of dreams, one of which was to form her own rock band one day with her friends. She'd already chosen the name of the band to be the Evil Angels.
How old was she? She was 10.
10.
I guess I thought she was 14 or something, maybe because of September 14th.
Hmm.
And then I was thinking, by then you're a teenager, and then if you're like, I'm gonna have a band one day and it's gonna be called Evil Angels, right after that I wouldn't be like, what a nice girl.
Well, she's
Satire.
a 10-year-old little girl.
But you weren't being satire, you were being legit. I get it.
Yeah, she's, I don't know.
She was playing.
She's just
She
playing.
wanted to be rock and roll. I get it now.
And these little girls, they don't know good and evil and all that stuff. And
I'm not familiar with this story.
You're
So,
not?
when it comes down to it, these stories can go either way. It could be like this 10-year-old girl met a boy online and then together they decided to murder their family.
Yeah.
Or it can be this 10-year-old girl gets murdered. I don't have a clue. So I wasn't picking up what you were putting down.
Okay.
But now I'm ready.
All right. So on May the 12th, 2003, 10-year-old Holly Jones decided to walk her friend Claudia home after their play date. Holly's mom didn't want her to go at first, wondering why it was Holly's responsibility to walk her friend home, to which Holly kind of snapped back at her and said, well, Mom, she's only in grade 4. I have to. Which, I've been in that position too, where why do you have to go and do this? And the reasoning being because you're the older kid and it's just your sense of responsibility that maybe parents don't automatically think of. But
no, that's actually really fascinating because I feel like usually it's like the kid being like, why do I have to walk her home? No, I don't want to do that. But it's very interesting that the parent was like, why are you going to do that?
Yeah. At around 6 p.m., the 2 girls left Holly Jones's house and walked down the street to Claudia's house, oblivious to the fact that this would be the last time they'd be together. So when Holly didn't return home by 8 p.m., her mom, Maria, decided to call Holly's friend's mother. Upon being informed that Holly had left the house hours ago, Maria and her husband, George, became panicked. They went out and they walked the route Holly would have taken, which took no more than 10 minutes each way. By 9 p.m., the parents had called the police to report Holly's disappearance, and the police and the community launched a full-blown search for the missing 10-year-old. This is before the Tori Stafford case. The police did issue an Amber Alert here for Holly, even though both children simply vanished. Anyways, back to Holly's story. So the police quickly ruled out any family members in connection with Holly's disappearance. The 11 division officers were called in and they commenced a missing persons search, knowing that it was a child abduction. Everything that can happen is going to happen within a few hours, and the child can still be in the area where he or she disappeared.
Just her was missing, not the kid she was walking.
Right, just Holly. So the little girl got home okay.
On the way back, she got abducted.
On the way back, something happened. Yeah.
Something happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they went right away to what's called a level 3 search that same night. They immediately had police officers interviewing family members, interviewing the last people who saw her, which was her little friend and her friend's mom. So the next day, on the morning of May 13th, 2003, the police still hadn't found Holly. They launched the Amber Alert. It's a huge...
In 2003?
Yeah.
An Amber Alert in 2003.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the first ever in Canadian history.
Oh.
That's why I was saying in the Tori Stafford case, like they had already had this precedent, and they had less to go on here than they did in Tori's case years later. I don't understand why the Amber Alert wasn't issued in Tori's case, but it was issued here.
Word.
And I'd also like to say they didn't have surveillance video of Holly or anything like that. So totally different set of circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But the police jumped on this one, whereas Tori's not so much. Which is a huge operation and a first in Canada. Photos of Holly are posted everywhere. After a panic-filled sleepless night, Holly's parents addressed the public, and this is what we heard in the opening of this episode.
Yeah, that was sad.
So obviously investigators believe that Holly was abducted between her house on Sterling Street and her friend's house on Perth Avenue. And they were almost certain that she's still in Junction Triangle, which is what the area is known as. So the investigators had a starting point where they could start searching for her. They really believed that they would find Holly alive. Dozens and dozens of officers were dispatched from all over the city and had come to the command post to help search for Holly, searching door to door, going into garages, into backyards, searching ravines, garbage, just making sure that they didn't miss anything.
High and low, low and high.
Mm-hmm. Shortly after Maria Jones appeared on television, the Toronto Naval Patrol received a call from a resident of Ward Island, directly across from Toronto, along the shore of Lake Ontario. The man had spotted a black sports bag floating in the water, and he opened it to discover human body parts.
Gasp.
We would later learn that there was a young girl's torso that had been found floating in a black nylon bag in Lake Ontario over by Ward Island. Law enforcement sent a team of divers to keep searching, trying to find the smallest clue to move the case forward. And later that afternoon, a police officer saw another bag floating near Ontario Place and took that bag directly to the Marine unit, where a coroner had been called in to assist them with examining the bag. It contained more of Holly's remains. It had her head and her arms inside, and it was weighed down with a dumbbell and a used mop head. The missing person rescue type operation turned into a full-blown homicide investigation. Okay. So the focus very quickly turned from searching for a little girl to searching for a killer. The Toronto Sex Crimes Unit immediately began sifting through the Ontario Registry of Sexual Predators living in Holly's neighborhood.
Why? Why sexual predators?
Well, because it was a little girl and she was dismembered. I mean, history shows that if it's not the parents or a close family member, usually it's
Could
a
they
sex
tell
crime.
That there was sexual abuse or assault, though?
I think because the body was naked, they assumed so. And It's just the kind of you can't say the first stop, because the first stop is always the family, but then they look for the sexual offender registry, see who's in the area, see what kind of opportunity.
You know, instant direction my brain's going here. Where are her legs?
Spoiler alert, they never find her legs.
Never. Odd.
So they were stunned, actually, to discover over 200 names on that sexual offender registry living right in that same neighborhood. Of course, word spreads like wildfire, so now everyone in the neighborhood is scared, but everyone is also outraged. How can that many sexual predators be living around schools and children, and no one, not even the sex crimes investigators, knew?
Well, because,
Wow.
I mean, you throw rocks and you hit at least a few.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
I mean, it wasn't new back then, I guess, but the sex offender registry was new
Yeah.
back then. Amber Alert was new back then.
So,
So
like,
it was
you'd
all
be
just
shocked that, like, you can see it now, but, like, in reality these days, we all know how common it is.
Yeah. Yeah, but back 20 years ago,
People were turning blind eyes and stuff still.
so what police knew about sexual predators is that they're hunters of human beings, and they usually hunt in their own neighborhoods. So the investigators were still confident that whoever had done this to Holly most certainly lived in the area, if not right on the route that Holly walked home that evening.
That would make sense.
Yeah. From Holly's body, the medical examiner was able to find an unknown male's DNA under Holly's fingernails, meaning that she fought her attacker. They also found green fibers from a bath mat and also a dumbbell, like I said before. So they had some clues and evidence to work with, but it was going to be like finding a needle in a haystack. Police officers toiled nonstop on the investigation. They had to search 2,500 homes to flush out the killer. They decided to ask for voluntary DNA swabs from every male in that neighborhood.
Every male or every male that showed up on that list?
Every male. Every male.
That's hilarious because you wouldn't think that the perp would come forward to do that.
That is very astute of you.
So, like, why waste the money?
They're trying to flush the guy out. So most people want to cooperate. They're clearly advised of the rights, and the police are giving out a waiver form for them to sign explaining how the whole process works, including the fact that the test will only be measured against the DNA of this particular case, and then it'll be thrown in the garbage. Absolutely confidential. We're not putting it on a database, nothing. We're just going to try to match it to our DNA, and if it doesn't match, that's the end of it. And they sign a waiver, and most people are willing to cooperate.
I'd carry out the plan, but budget friendly. I'd use fake Q-tips.
Well, they didn't, and they did this.
Yeah, and then they didn't keep it for possible future.
They didn't.
That's, in my opinion, stupid. Whatever, though. What if his great-great-grandson one day is a fucking serial killer?
Well, they were trying to get the public to cooperate, right?
Yeah, no, totally. It's short-sighted, but totally, honestly, I get it.
So like I said, 99% of the adult males along that route readily agreed and said, anything we can do to help solve this case, we're happy to do it. I think there were 3 men in total that didn't give voluntary samples.
Sus.
However, during the canvass, officers were asked to take note of homes that they were inside of with a short list of things to look for, like the green carpeting or bath mats, weight sets, the behavior, those types of things. When police went to Michael Breer's apartment, they noticed a strong smell of bleach and cleaner from even outside of the apartment, even stronger still once they entered. They also took note of a green bath mat set in his apartment and a dumbbell set inside the door of his bedroom area.
So he's stupid.
Briere refused to give DNA, and so the officers left that day. So faced with that obstacle, the police changed tactics. They drop a profile for the murderer and shrink down to what they thought were 468 persons of interest in the case, and they were able to prioritize who they needed to look at further down to only 19 persons of interest. And out of that 19, they narrowed it down to only 3 people, which Michael Briere was among those 3 prime suspects. That is when police decide to visit him again. They knocked on his door, and with no luck, they just decided to look for the owner of the rental property when they spot a man sneaking out of the building through the back door. Lo and behold, it's Michael Briere.
Don't be suspicious.
Right?
Sneaking.
Investigators asked if they could step inside of his apartment to have a quick conversation, to which Michael agreed. While inside, one of the investigators had a look around And one of the first things he noticed was that there was a brand new shower curtain sitting on his kitchen table, still in the package. And when they looked inside of his washroom, there were no shower curtains at all, and there were no green bath mats, which the original canvassing officers had noted, and now they were beige bath mats laying there. They also saw children's toys in his apartment. The officers asked about his initial refusal to provide DNA, and Michael responds by saying that he doesn't like Big Brother watching him, which I think we all know people that are like that.
I'm surprised so many people came forward and said, yeah, sure, take my DNA, because of how many people we know like that.
Nevertheless, he says that he hopes the police catch the guy who committed the crime soon. The two investigators ask Michael to come down to the station, which he agrees. In fact, he seems eager to help. Audio and video have not been publicly released showing any of Michael's interrogations, but police say that they were looking for signs of deception, looking for behaviors that could be indicative of somebody who's guilty. Another huge red flag was when he was asked what was the color of the bath mats in your home, and he replied that they were black. And police obviously knew that was a lie. So Michael Briere was 35. He worked at a pharmaceutical company as a computer programmer. He's a medium height and weighs 90 kg. He's, chubby and quiet, I guess. He doesn't attract much attention, but honestly, he's scary and homely. I mean, when I look at him, he looked scary and homely.
What's homely?
Ugly. Not attractive. Not somebody that could just strike up a conversation with some kid or a woman and the woman would be like, receptive to.
Was he short and stout?
Yes.
Gotcha.
But he was born in the Rosemont district of Montreal and is the result of an affair that his mother had with a married man who never acknowledged him. So he was solely raised by his alcoholic mother. Michael's paychecks kept her going in cigarettes and alcohol. His ex-wife would later say, quote, "He was the first person I really met who had told me that he was abused at every single level of his being, and without giving you examples, because I'm telling you, they would leave you screaming," unquote. And honestly, don't we all? Boo-hoo. The fact that Michael Briere lived with a completely dysfunctional alcoholic mother certainly did not help in forming a good, stable identity and a strong sense of self, but a lot of people go through shit and don't become this.
Yeah.
His self-esteem was very poor and he hated himself. Just saying, good. Michael had dreams of becoming an actor, but he knew he wasn't very attractive. So to improve his chances of success, apparently he had plastic surgery, and he changed his name and moved to Toronto. Now, and like I said before, if what we see is his post-plastic surgery self...
What's his name again?
Michael Briere. Briere.
Michael.
I don't know. I mean, what work did you have done, buddy? Because it didn't work. I'd ask for a refund.
B-R-I?
B-R-I-E-R-E.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's no way he had... Maybe. I don't know. Who knows what he looked like before, but that's what he looks like now.
I wonder what his, version of plastic surgery is. Like, maybe he got Botox? He's pretty chunky in the cheeks.
Did he get his moobs reduced? You know what I mean? Like, I don't see it, but...
That's funny.
So he deletes the Michel Briere of yesteryear and makes himself over into a new man, not only with a new personality, but with brand new looks. And when he moved to Toronto, Michael Briere enrolls in theater school, and that's where he met Vicky, his now ex-wife. A year into dating, they got married in Las Vegas, and Vicky said in an interview, quote, "We've had a lot of the same interests and a lot of the same goals, and it was like, wow, my prayers were answered, and God sent me this wonderful man." But the relationship begins to unravel when Vicky discovers certain aspects of Michael that she didn't like his addiction to video games.
To his nose, ears, and jaw. Which is pretty interesting because I was going to say, like, I could kind of see maybe he had, like, something done to his jaw to make it a little less round and stand out more because, like, he looks so filled out, but then for some reason his jaw still shows. Maybe jaw filler or something like that.
Oh, really? I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see it. I just see a slug. When I
I'd
look
love
at
to
his
see like an
pictures.
original photo. I wonder if he
Yeah.
was just right fucked up.
Well, like I said, if that's fixing stuff, then
Yeah.
he must have been, for sure. Like I said, his wife Vicky discovers certain things that she didn't like about Michael, like his addiction to video games, and this is what he was doing in his spare time, just playing video games. And Michael was compulsively isolating completely from the world around him, including his wife. He would play video games and ignore his wife for at least 40 hours a week. So
40 hours a week.
40 hours a week. So he would work full time and basically play video games full time. You got no time for your wife. You're just isolated completely from everything. So in no time,
And back then, like, what was he playing
yeah, I don't,
for that long?
he gets a divorce. Yeah, I don't
Like
know.
2003. I feel like there was like nothing.
Diablo, probably.
Was that there?
Yeah, maybe like Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay, I
and
could see
stuff like
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, word. Me too. Just kidding.
Yeah. And he was a computer programmer, so I'm sure, like, for me, the video games would be on what would have been PlayStation or something back then, right?
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. But he could have been on
Lame.
a computer. Like, I don't really remember much of 2003. It was a little bit 20 years ago. So you were, yeah, no, we had like Sega Genesis and stuff like that, and you were quite young. So,
Oh.
I mean, it all existed. It's not like Atari days where you had cassettes back in the 80s and you'd play a game for an hour and get bored.
Yeah, I was thinking like Nintendo 60 something.
Yeah,
gold,
no,
whatever.
this is well after that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So now, almost 40 days after Holly Jones' death, Michael Briere is called back in by detectives, and he swears he has nothing to do with the crime, but keeps refusing to supply DNA. And still not having enough to arrest him, police must release Michael, but investigators kept Michael Briere under constant surveillance. He was careful not to dispose of much garbage at all, but eventually he did. He discarded a soda can that he'd just finished. The police took it as evidence, and the DNA matched that which was found under Holly's fingernails. Investigators wanted to be sure, so they were able to get a second sample after witnessing Michael throwing away a drink cup after eating fast food with his then-girlfriend. That DNA was a match as well.
Just curious, can they do that legally?
Once
Or
it's
would
in the
they-
garbage, it's public domain. So
And
they need to
really?
have, they need to show...
They didn't need a warrant to take
No.
his garbage?
No, because it's public domain once you put it in the garbage. But they have to show that it came from him, that the discarded sample came from him.
How would they
So,
show that?
Police surveillance video or pictures, or you know what I mean? Like he
24
was-
hours showing that nobody else
Yeah.
went in the house.
or showing him drinking from the cup, showing him beside the garbage can, putting it in, and then showing the police going right over type thing. Just some kind of continuity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, word.
Same thing right now is going on with the Long Island serial killer because
The pizza box?
the pizza box, right? Right.
Like, did you see the Howard Stern thing?
I did not.
You didn't.
No.
Okay, so like forever ago, Howard Stern on his podcast, when talking about the case, he was like, I bet you one day he was like, no, it's going to be one guy. He was like, it's probably from like Long Island and probably going to get like DNA like through like a pizza box or something. I shit you not.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, they had to go, obviously, once they had that DNA and they matched it to Rex Heuermann or whatever, he discarded that pizza. Now they have to prove that that DNA belonged to Rex Heuermann, because who knows who actually ate the pizza, right?
Okay, wait. I'm going to play it.
For the pod? You're gonna
Yeah. Because, like, yo, listeners, you're going to want to hear this. It's weird.
During the summer, they're now saying they think one killer is responsible for all those bodies found in the Gilgo Beach area. 10 sets of human remains have been discovered since December of last year, and only 5 have been identified so far.
They found them all on the beach. A lot of them, right?
Yeah, like buried in the sand.
Right.
In dunes. But, yeah, I wonder if they're getting close to this guy. Is he feeling the heat? Is it just a matter of time? We don't know.
I don't think it's going to be like a group of people like you just said. I think when they find this, I think it's going to be one guy.
Mm-hmm.
Probably from Long Island, like Massapequa Park or something. And I think it'll come down to DNA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They get it from like a body, and then they match it to some guy eating a pizza or a pizza box or something like that. But it's probably one guy, and he's got a dark side. Real unassuming guy. Probably has a white collar job.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like an architect or I don't know, like you know, like a good job. And
Isn't that fucking weird?
Because he did live in Massapequa Park. He was caught by way of pizza box DNA, and he was an architect.
And the fact that he even narrowed it down to Long Island. Like,
I think that that's suspicious, and they should be questioning Howard Stern.
I think that Howard
what he
Stern, I think he is either a demon who sold his soul years and years and years ago, because he's a fucking asshole too. I think he's a demon, or I think he's like possessed or like some kind of shit. And
He just spelled out who the Long Island serial killer was.
yeah,
How many years ago?
I think he's a demon who's like toying with us.
They need to talk to him. They need to investigate him as a possible accomplice or something.
Creepy though, right?
That's ridiculously creepy. Wow.
Yeah, it's fucked.
So, okay. So the second discarded sample was a DNA match to Michael Breyer. And at that point, when they had that second one, they knew for sure that Michael was responsible for the abduction, sexual assault, and murder of Holly Jones. So on June 20th at 5:40 a.m., Detectives Cuomo and Perry waited for Briere at the entrance to a subway station near his home. He was arrested and taken to the police station. Meanwhile, a forensic team goes through Briere's apartment looking for proof that Holly had been there. Although Michael swears he's innocent, the police interrogate him relentlessly on the presence of his DNA under Holly Jones's fingernails. They bombard him with questions which he refuses to answer. Then one of the officers mentions the little girl's legs, the only body parts that hadn't been found. Finally, Michael cracks. He told investigators that they would never be found.
What the fuck?
He had disposed of them in the garbage almost immediately, and that those legs had been taken to a garbage disposal site in Michigan. So it would have been virtually impossible to recover her legs because they would have been buried under tons and tons of garbage.
So there's just legs somewhere there.
Not
Imagine
anymore.
What?
Not anymore, obviously. They're probably dust now, but yeah.
No, there'd still be bones, wouldn't there?
Maybe.
Yeah, just like knowing that, like whoever works there, they're like a new hire comes in there, like there's human remains.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
But I think it's pretty...
Fucked up.
It is, but at the same time, I think there's a possibility that human remains are in every dump, in every major city.
Possible, but that's just the confirmation.
Yeah.
And in the spirit of Halloween, that is spoopy as fuck.
True enough. Very, very true. And I mean, how sad. So, Michael confesses over 3 long hours without showing a hint of remorse. He gives a detailed account of the kidnapping, rape, murder, and dismemberment of Holly. That Monday, May 12th, 2003, shortly after supper, Michael received the overpowering urge to have sex with a child after spending the entire day drinking and downloading child pornography.
Oh, gross.
He leaves his apartment and walks to the corner of Perth and Bloor, and Holly was walking down Perth Street. He sees her. He's never laid eyes on her before, and it is by pure horrific chance that Holly never suspected a thing. Michael moved in. He checked around to make sure that nobody was looking, grabs her firmly at the back of her neck and tells her if she screams or fights, he will kill her. Holly did as she was told. She stayed quiet. Once inside his apartment, Michael attempted to rape Holly, and she was assaulted in numerous ways, but she had fought back hard. Less than a half an hour later, he strangled Holly barehanded. He panicked over what to do with her body, so he decided to hide her in his fridge. He doesn't want the smell of rot to tip neighbors off, and at one point, after he thought that she was dead and she was in his fridge, he heard a boom, 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 a knocking. It was her fighting to get out of the fridge. So he took her out and took her to his bed and strangled her again. Once he was certain this time that she was dead, she went back into the refrigerator. So picture this. So
That's fucked.
He killed her, or he thinks he killed her.
He killed her. Put her in the
He takes
fridge.
everything out of the fridge, like shelves and all, puts the body in there, and then a little while later hears this thump, thump, thump.
Yeah.
Like, how horrific. And poor Holly waking up in that fridge thinking, oh my God.
That's so sad.
So in his mind now, Michael has no choice but to get rid of the body. He begins by disposing of the little girl's clothing. He takes them by subway to a large garbage containers behind a shopping mall. Then he comes home, grabs the sports bag, and realizes that the girl's body is too big to fit inside. This is when he decides to dismember her with a hacksaw. Once this horrible task is done, Michael cleans his apartment with a mop and rags, and these are the same ones later found by the police in the same bags as Holly's remains. Over the next few days, he gets rid of all the other incriminating evidence, including the hacksaw, which he throws in a downtown garbage can. He disposes of the torso first, which is stuffed into a sports bag and thrown into Lake Ontario in the middle of the night. And back at home, he lies down in the very bed that he strangled Holly in. And when he gets up the next morning, an Amber Alert had been launched. All of Toronto is searching for Holly, and Michael knows he has to hurry to get rid of the rest of her body. He doesn't want to throw the second bag where he'd thrown the first, so he goes further along the shoreline. On June 20th, 2003, after his confession, Michael led the police to the places where he went to dispose of all of the evidence. They find traces of blood on the mattress with DNA profiles similar to that of Holly Jones. The margin of error is 1 in 68 billion, so clearly it's Holly's. During his interrogation, Michael admits his dark secret, as he calls it, to a detective. He says that for years he's fantasized about having sex with a little girl, and that he basically had decided to act that day. Even if Holly hadn't been there, he had known he was taking the first young girl he saw when he left his apartment that evening.
Wow.
So there was a mirror, a full-length mirror on Brier's front door. And when one of the investigators saw that mirror, his heart sank because he thought to himself, this is the last time that this child saw herself. Her own reflection was in that mirror as she was let in to be sexually assaulted and murdered. The terror on her face must have been just unbelievable. To this day, the detective, I think everybody wishes Holly had screamed for help on the street, because he said that had Holly screamed or fought, he wouldn't have.
No, they're cowards. They're like they're the biggest cowards. So he would have ran away as fast as he could, obviously. But, you know, as a kid, you don't know that. An adult tells you do this or this, you trust that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
One of the officers said, I recall him saying to the officers that had she screamed, I would have let her go. Tell parents to tell their kids if they are abducted to scream, because he would have let her go. Police would later learn that Briere took the subway to the lake carrying Holly's remains. He took them to the lake to dispose of them and would likely have gotten away with the murder if water currents had just carried the remains past the island into the lake. It was a DNA case. Without DNA, it might not have been solved. And I totally believe that. Good for Holly for fighting back so hard. She had his DNA under her nails.
Yeah, no kidding.
So Briere pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, but addressed the court and Holly's family before sentencing, saying, "The crime I am guilty of is simply the worst kind of crime a person could commit. What I did was absolutely wrong. It was done out of selfishness. It was the act of a coward. I accept the sentence which you are about to give me. No one who has stood in front of you has been more deserving of such a sentence. I stand by my words when I told the police, a man who commits these crimes you put away, and you put away for good."
Oh my God. Like, I hate when these monsters go off and like do these little things, because like, you know, it's feeding some little sick, twisted like thing with them. It's like, shut up. We don't care if you accept the sentence. We'd prefer that you fight it, honestly, and just keep your stupid hopes up and talk about how you don't deserve this and blah, 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 blah. Let it eat you alive.
Yeah.
We don't care if you agree, get pushed into the cell, and get locked away forever. Also, I just want to add for the listeners that if you can hear in the backtrack while we are talking tools and stuff, there is lots of construction going on our street, and there's nothing we can do about it. So sorry.
So Michael goes on to say, "I take no pride in what I have done. The truth is I'm ashamed beyond belief. I regret everything. I am really sorry. I really wish I could undo everything. I have failed as a human being." And to that, the detectives basically say, don't believe it. He's only sorry he got caught. So no
Exactly.
shit. No shit, yeah.
You're not a human being, period, you dumbass.
Yeah. So Michael Briere was handed an automatic life sentence with no chance of a parole for 25 years. I believe that Michael Briere has been deemed a dangerous offender, so even when he does become eligible for parole, he's not going to get out. He has to lose that dangerous offender designation before he'll be eligible.
It's disgusting that there's even a possibility, though.
Mm-hmm. That's just
So
how our
gross.
system works there. There's no such thing as no parole in Canada. None. Whether or not the parole board lets you out, that's another story, but...
Well, actually, I also, in the future here, we will be talking about a different case where this predator got out of jail in his lifetime to be able to commit more murders after killing 2 young children.
Talking about Arthur Shawcross.
Yes.
He's a brutal, brutal man, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Crazy.
Like, it makes no sense that these people were able to get out so quickly back then.
And it's not that we're learning the lesson. Like, that thing with Arthur Shawcross happened a long time ago, and he served a sentence and was let out to go and kill more people.
Yeah.
We keep doing it, though, and we're still doing it. We're not learning that lesson as
weird.
a society.
You take somebody's life, your life should be done. You should be locked behind bars.
How many judges have we heard? You have forfeited your right to life, or you forfeited your right to live in a society, right? The only society you get now is your prison life. Happy 23-hour-a-day lockdown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and these ones that like have the possibility to see freedom again in their lifetimes, like if you have to like create a secondary facility that still keeps them locked down away from people where they don't get treated quite as harshly, like if that's what their thing is, but like honestly they don't even deserve that. All I'm saying is they don't have the right to ever be part of society again the second they take a life, especially when it's just for their own shits and giggles. Like,
agreed. Yeah. So as for Holly's heartbroken mom, she's poured her energy into strengthening laws on children. She wants to make sure that her daughter's death was not in vain. So no one will ever forget Holly Jones. But despite all of the measures in place now for tracking pedophiles, or I should say sex offenders, because there's this new movement, MAPS, minor attracted people, that are non-offending pedophiles. So, you know, quote unquote, they've never they've never assaulted anybody or they've never touched a child, but they still
have the sickness.
Yeah, they're still attracted to minors. But so we're tracking sex offenders, we're tracking these predators, but it's still happening. So I mean, I'm not convinced that anything that the government does or laws change, nothing is going to stop this kind of thing from happening. It goes so much deeper than that. It starts at home with the childhood, how these guys are raised, and some women, how they're raised. Look at Terry Lynn McClintock. But yeah, I'm not convinced that this kind of thing will ever stop happening. So we need to, I guess, teach our kids personal safety. It's such a sad fucking state.
Just gotta, like, I don't know, protect the kids better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no bringing weirdos in.
Mm-hmm. But this, I mean, Holly's parents did nothing wrong.
Going the extra mile and walking with your kid if she feels like she needs to walk a kid home for safety.
Or driving the kid home, yeah.
Something. Yeah, driving. And that's what you see a lot nowadays, actually, is parents are a little bit more willing to drive their kids A to B when they ask and stuff like that.
Well, unfortunately, it takes this kind of thing that kind of not opens parents' eyes, but makes us more vigilant and more like, oh my God, that just happened right over here. We have to be careful.
Yeah, because like back in the day, it would just be like, no, you want to go somewhere? Walk.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that? You want to do this? No, I can't pick you up. I'm watching a movie. Like, it wasn't, nowadays it's literally like, okay, I'll pick you guys up. Mm-hmm. Text me, call me when you want me to pick you up. Mm-hmm. You see it way more often now. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. It's good though.
Yeah.
It's not making your kids lazy. It's just making sure that they're getting safely A to B. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of weirdos out there.
Mm-hmm. So for years and years and years, they had a kind of a memorial wall up on this street. I heard that they had to knock it down. I'm not sure if it's still there or not.
Oh, that's sad.
But anyways, there's Holly's garden. Her mom, like I said, she does a lot of advocacy. So I don't know. You can go to the Holly Jones website and see pictures of her and pictures of that memorial wall and the garden and everything, and it's really beautiful. And this case just really stuck with me over the years because it was a Canadian case. 2003, we had just moved to a small town because of scary things that started to happen in the city when I would let you and your sister go to the park. And you were probably too young, but your sister wasn't. And there was a man, and he was a mentally disabled man, but he was scaring you guys. And so it got to the point where we couldn't let you even go to the park in our little complex anymore.
No, I remember lots of like weird things happening.
Yeah, going to the police and saying that unless he touches them, there's nothing we can do. And
the guy on the bike.
Yeah, that's actually what pushed me over the edge to agree to move to where we are now. That situation.
And like I remember that, and I would have been young as well.
Yeah,
it sticks with you.
It does. And how scary. And you can't even call the police. We did. We called the police and they said, well, you know, he's not doing any harm. And unless he lays a hand on one of your kids, there's nothing we can do about it. I'm thinking, really? So he has to do something before you can help my children? So I guess my children will lose out and they won't be able to go to the park in our area, in our complex anymore because he has to do something first. I mean, it's just wrong. Anyways, rest easy, Holly.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast and share with your friends. If you don't mind giving us a 5-star rating, it will help our show grow. You can also find us on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at True Crime Story Podcast, where the discussion can continue. If you wish to contact us, you may do so via email at truecrimestorypod@gmail.com. Remember to send in your podcast episodes, case suggestions, or requests. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the show. I'm Bree.
And I'm Char.
And we'll see you in the next chapter. Bye!